nonsensical. It's too hard. Chill it. Okay, so welcome back to Tomb Raider Chronicles, Race to the End. This week we were doing the old mill, and boy, was it hard.
Yeah, we made it to last orders in the old mill.
We got too drunk and then we couldn't leave.
They took our car keys and said, you can't go home.
Yeah, and then they told me, you've had enough. I was like, I know I've had enough. So to start with, you can go straight forwards, and once you get past this grey rock, then you get a cutscene where this horseman sort of ghostly rider comes by and almost chops your head off. Then you can go to the left as well and sort of follow some sort of cavey routes. But I kept on going like past it after I'd explored other ways, and I just kept on seeing it again. I'm like, this is deja vu. Why is this? Oh, it's to stop you going that way. Okay, so you keep on seeing this cutscene for that right.
I'm the opposite though. I went left first, so I didn't actually see the cutscene.
So you did a bit of platforming, a bit of going around these sort of labyrinth caves, and then over to the rope swing, which was the start of my travels.
Not just yours, but yes.
Yeah. So initially I went for the long swing straight ahead, which took me ages to actually manage to get. I have a very hard time working the rope swings. Like sometimes she climbs up when I want her to swing forwards. Sometimes she falls off when I'm just trying to turn around. Loads and loads of deaths, loads of reloads, loads of wasted time. I'm getting frustrated here.
Yeah, I mean, rope swings is not Tomb Raider's finest hour, I don't think, is it?
No, like you said it, you thought it was better than Tomb Raider 4, but like I was just like, why don't they just get rid of this?
I can't remember the level name, but Poseidon's hub world. I mean, that is a renowned, ridiculous rope swing where you're perfectly lined up and just.
we were playing
so it wasn't that bad.
I just gave you the controller because I'd had enough, and that's kind of where I was getting to with this level. So I went over, and I was like, finally, I've made it. So I thought I'd save it, and little did I know, you needed to get some items before going all the way over there. So I was stuck there trying to do this ridiculous hop from one slope platform to another for a good long time. Oh dear, it took me ages.
I think that's the hardest platforming in any Tomb Raider. I'll throw it out there. I don't think there's any pure jump grab section that is harder than that.
Quite possibly. If there is a harder section in the classic Tomb Raider, leave us a comment. Let us know, and we'll be the judge of that.
So I did something a bit different. I got on the rope and I looked around. I did go straight over the other side, and I just thought there was nothing there. So I reloaded and came back, and I found a couple of items. I found the crowbar and the torch. Because I'd already explored the cave area, I set the torch on fire. But you can't do anything when you're holding the torch. So I thought, back to the Horseman. But you can't climb out of the little pit. So that was a dead end. And I eventually realised that the torch is only there to stop the little ghost creatures from like throwing rocks, or as you called them, snowballs at you. So I had the crowbar, but I had no idea where to go. And eventually you did that tricky platforming bit.
And I was like, this is probably it. Like, I've reached a dead end and I can't go any further because I need to get this crowbar. How do you get the crowbar? Oh, you need to do some rope swinging. And I was just like, oh no. I tried for a while. Tried getting back on the rope several different ways. You told me how to do it, and then I did it. And then I was swinging around on the rope, and I got loads of like deaths when I was just hanging on the rope, and it just came up with game over because the little men were throwing their snowballs at me. And even though she's just still like hanging there, like there's no death animation, she's just chilling. And
I did have that one time. It was funny. Just
it was just like, I will stay. She stays gripped on it even through death. So at that point, I'd had enough, and I threw in the towel.
I don't blame you. It was not the easiest level, this one, and I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have got that far if we weren't talking through ideas.
But because I already had the crowbar, I managed to get to that location, and where you reach the dead end, she can pop out some chalk. And as soon as I saw it as chalk, I did think, we've got a bestiary and a horseman, and we'd already had a discussion about the weird texture on the floor. So I was like,
she's blatantly going to write some sort of rune there. So that's what she does do, and the horseman comes and takes the father priest off, and you enter the probably main section of the level, which is kind of upsetting that we didn't quite get to that point.
Because it looks really nice, and the father has a lot of banter, given that he's like
He does.
in mortal danger.
This is where I got to the point where the towel was going to be thrown in. So there's a section where you swim around the old mill. I'd explored everywhere, and I actually got all 3 secrets, which is frustrating when you have no idea where else you're going to go. And you get to the section where they have a sea, what's she called? A sea
Hag. A sea
hag. A sea hag, that's the one. And so you get a cutscene, you swim into her lair, and you get a cutscene where she grabs you and throws you out, just like the horseman. So I'm like, well, okay, I've got to find something to stop her doing that, like the horseman. But no, this this is not the case. It's not like the last experience you just had. It's completely different. You have to go back to the cave a second time, pick up an item, which is impossibly hard to see, as you've already mentioned about this game. They're 2D and blend in with the environment, and you've got to wait for her to swim a certain direction so you can go and grab it. And if you don't do that, you see the same cutscene. So the second I tried it twice, just because, why not? And I saw the same cutscene. So why would I ever go back there a third time to explore? I mean, to be honest, I did notice it was slightly different the second time. She didn't grab me straight away, but not enough to make me think there's something here. It was, yeah, and got to that point and I was like, there's nothing I can do at this point. So yeah, also threw in the towel, stop the level. I mean, we will both complete it, but we'll just do it
if I can. I don't know, like the amount of times I've fallen off this rope now, I'm not sure. I need to give it a break.
I was having a bad day as it is. I'm upset by like the news of the world and stuff, and then I went on a run, and then I was feeling good, and I started running even faster and like getting my out of breath and stuff. So I went for a big breathe in, and I fucking swallowed a fly. It was disgusting. I couldn't even throw it up.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to. That's just not a happy tale.
No, not my best day.
So it's that time again where we're going to spotlight a Tomb Raider creator, and this week it's Piggoody.
After a fairly lengthy intro, Piggoody introduces the concept that Tomb Raider is in fact a horror game. It's a unique and interesting concept that it's really interesting to watch.
Piggoony's video on the first Tomb Raider game perfectly captures the atmosphere of this game. He uses these amazing pans through the levels, which he's painstakingly created himself.
The section on the T-Rex fight in Forbidden Valley is a humorous take on how classic games hold up in modern day.
The points he makes on how the control scheme, being a little bit clunky, but how it attaches you to the protagonist and makes you feel like you're really there, is just awesome. There are so many different cuts he uses to get from shot to shot. His editing style is immaculate.
I really like the use of the 3D character models, and they're really great at giving an insight into the enemies of the game.
Okay, so last week we proposed the question, what would be our dream location if we were to set a level or series of levels? So what were your thoughts on that, Bruce?
I've got a few ideas. So it would follow the events of Angelina Jolie's debut Tomb Raider film, and the first level would just be Croft Manor, and you'd start off getting used to the controls and doing the usual things around the manor, and then you would eventually get to the ticking.
Have you ever heard of the Clock of Ages?
And you'd have to find your pistols and then shoot out the hidden partition underneath the stairs, and you find this clock, and then that sets in motion the rest of the film, sort of thing. And
would you also have the robot boss?
Possibly. I think maybe that's like a secret.
Okay.
Maybe you start that off and that it teaches you the mechanics of shooting and stuff.
Yeah.
But I think it would have to use a combination of using cutscenes literally taken from the film, using audio taken from the film, but with like old school sort of polygonal renders. But just taking the audio from that, and this would tour you around the globe like the film does. You'd take in Cambodia, where you'd be fighting like the henchmen and the big sort of Buddha-like statue that comes alive. You go to Venice as well. Back in Venice, one of your favourite places.
Back in Angkor Wat as well, technically.
And then Siberia too.
So
plenty of like locations. It would be like its own Tomb Raider game, like going all over the world. So that was one idea. I've got three.
Wait, hang on. That wasn't one idea. I heard Cambodia.
Not a level.
I heard Lars Croft Mansion. So what were your other 10 ideas?
So the other one would be Austria, which maybe you could start with some like snowboarding, be a bit like poolboarding or something, or maybe it starts from with a helicopter crash, because it seems like anything that she gets in will crash, and she just jumps out on a snowboard. Then you'd like go around like mountains, and you'd see fucking you'd have like them Yetis from the second game.
PR2.
You'd have like eagles from the Nevada section of the third game, and then maybe you'd head into Vienna, and then there'd be some sort of heist in one of the art galleries there. I thought that would be a cool way to finish it. But if I had to choose one, this is the one I'm going to go for, and it's more of like a personal sort of one. So I've went traveling a long time ago, went to sort of Central America and did some conservation work in Belize. And I think Belize would be a really cool location because it's a small country, but it's very varied. So like you could have a really pretty underwater area that would be around one of the coastal islands. You could have like sort of diving level there perhaps. Then you'd have your Mayan temples, and perhaps you could have sort of puzzles around that, and perhaps trying to collect some like ancient pottery, and then also like you've got like loads of different types of people there. So you'd have interactions with like these sort of German Amish kind of people. You'd have like locals. You'd have like people with like Mayan culture, like history, and then you've got like British Army is there as well. So maybe you could like fight them, be like searching for something. The bulk of it would be that remote jungle, and you'd have the traditional sort of jungle enemies and like your snakes as well. So I think it'd be really
quite cool if also you had like backpackers there as well in a little section, like a hub world. You could put yourself in
I would be an NPC just hiking through.
Yep.
What about you? What would be your level if you could pick anywhere? What would be the dream location?
So when I thought about the question, I think it's a fun question, and I thought, well, what would make a good level? And I instantly thought, what would be visually stunning? So places like Petra in Jordan, Easter Island. But apart from that one impressive scene, I wasn't sure that would make an incredible level. So I also thought, well, kind of reflecting on what you said about last level with the kind of werewolf creature, I was like, well, you could go to Transylvania and there could be like vampires stuff, or you could go to Wales where there's like lore about buried dragons and things like that. But then again, you know, it wasn't the whole package. I thought about timeline, so you could have East Germany, you know, set in when it was still partitioned, or back in like Chernobyl, something where a big event in history happened and Lara was there. Maybe difficult to work in the storyline there. And then I went completely out there, fantasy, and I thought, well, it would be amazing to control Lara in Raccoon City from Resident Evil 2.
Oh,
well,
wow,
not
yeah,
just 2. That would be fun. Or like going into space. You know, Final Fantasy have already done that several times. Why not Lara?
Well, she almost did in Area 51, right?
Yeah, yeah. And another one, kind of fantasy but also real, Disneyland. How amazing would that be? But I thought it has to be like the whole package level, you know, where you've got storyline, visual, and setting, you know, everything. So couple of close calls. Edinburgh, I thought that would be cool because it is amazingly good looking, good lore. There's like a buried street where they kind of blocked in plague victims back in the 1600s, whatever it was.
This being Tomb Raider,
you know,
they'd probably still be alive down there.
Exactly. Or she takes something she shouldn't, which wakes them up. Or Dubrovnik, really pretty city, quite contained. You could almost, in the next gen Tomb Raider, create the whole city like for like, pretty much. Probably it isn't that big, a walled city, which would be very pretty. You've got platforming on the cliffs as well as the buildings. But I thought the ultimate Tomb Raider level would be the Vatican City. Same reasons as Dubrovnik almost, where it's finite space, it would be visually stunning, and there's amazing lore. I don't know if that's the right word for Christianity, but stories and tales and history. But you know, there would be easily an amazing storyline in there. Visually, you can even get in the Sistine Chapel, top of is it St. Peter's Dome? Climb up there. And there's also the Vatican vaults, where there's a lot of texts and books that are owned by the Pope, which they are accessible to the public, but only from like 80 years ago or something, so that you could easily interweave some sort of revelation that comes out of that. And I think that would be an incredible, that could be a game, to be honest. Yeah. So I think that would be my dream location. I'd love to play a game set around the kind of Christianity stories. You know, we've done Norse, Egyptian, all of that, and that would be great.
Our question for next week, if you want to have a think about this one, is going to be, what classic Tomb Raider level would you like to see an HD remake or a remaster of? So that's classic meaning Tomb Raiders 1 to 6, all the ones done by Core Design.
So this section, our times.
So my time was
7 out. No. It's also a massive shame because we were both loving Ireland until this level. And I think if I knew where I was going and I replayed it, it would probably be well put together. It just relies on too much assumption and yeah, Tomb Raider logic. Yeah, this week was a draw.
Yeah, this week was a draw because we both threw in the towel because you should not attempt the old mill in Tomb Raider Chronicles without a guide or a walkthrough. It's just nonsensical. It's too hard to make sense of without some clues.
So we're off to a new location next week.
Well, thanks everybody for tuning in, for watching, and we will see you next week.
Cool.
Fade to black.
On an invisible platform.